Hello and welcome to High Caliber TV, your source for figure and model updates every Wednesday and Friday. Today on Figure Friday I'm going to be doing my part 2 of the Alpine Tank Crew series. So we've got a pair of real gems here today, the pair of OIF tankers from Alpine. I want to start off with the early war Iraq-centered Operation Iraqi Freedom tank crew from Alpine. They're in the old school Nomex flight suit with the interceptor vest, and then they've got the two sets of helmets, the tank crew with the ear pro and the fancy goggles and stuff like that, and then there's the MICH helmets, the infantry helmets that tank crews often wore. So I want to take a minute to talk about the state of OIF tank crews. When these guys came out, before these guys came out, it was basically, they were thin on the ground. The choices were stuff like old Verlinden figures, mainly from the first Desert Storm, so like Desert Storm, Desert Shield 91, stuff like that, when tank crews actually didn't wear body armor. They just wore Nomex flight suits and like a pistol across their chest, very old school style. And then there were things like, on a broader sense, you had the Dragon set, and I was really excited when the Dragon set came out, the Marines, but they had all the usual foibles that are associated with old school Dragon stuff. Like, there were the funny lines down the back of the torso parts. If you've ever had to deal with Dragon figures, which I'm sure all of you have, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know why they don't fix it, but then again, I don't mold figures, so yeah. And so when those came out, they were great, but you know, it made these guys so different because they were so sharp and the detail was so well realized and the poses were so relaxed and nonchalant that they were just miles ahead of everyone else. That's why whenever you see an Abrams at a contest, chances are pretty good that these two guys, or one of them, are hanging out on it. So basically, I just want to talk about the figures, how they've got the the bandana scarf type of things around their necks. Really cool looking. Alpine Miniatures, I want to thank them for doing something that still not a lot of people do. They provide the mic boom setup for the ear protection variant of the heads. It's just a really thin piece of resin that you can cut away from the casting block, and then you melt it and bend it into the position where the guy would be able to talk into it. Not a lot of people do this, even now, and since ear protection mics are so prevalent in combat units now, they're down to like the fire team level in a lot of cases, especially if it's a special operation unit. Everyone wears them basically. They are moving away from the Motorola walkabout, like security guard type of talkie things, and into more integrated systems. So even if you don't end up using the traditional tanker helmets on these guys, you still get the mics as like an added bonus for special operations units, more up-to-date figures that would be using these microphones. Even stuff like the Canadian Forces tank crew from Black Dog, they require mics. So I want to thank them for doing that. And now I want to talk about the AFV crew in all climate uniform, what I'm going to refer to as ACU. These guys, I've painted them up myself in the past, and they're hands down my favorite ACU garbed troopers in 1/35th scale, just because they're so simply posed and so simply equipped that you can do whatever you want with them. They're intended for Iraq, Afghanistan, and you can also have them just in home operations in a proving ground in California or something like that. The badge on the bicep does link them to a Stryker unit, if that matters to you, but you can always scrape that away. I wouldn't though, because it's nuts, it's insane. I think it's a cougar, like jumping out at you from a star background. It's nuts. You can see that detail on the bicep of the figure. They've also got the American flag on the right-hand side, which is also very cool. The fella unwrapping his cigarettes, there's a lot of really cool detail, mainly around the hands, because they're both wearing Nomex flight gloves, and his are rolled up to the cuff, I guess just because it's so hot. And you know how when you look at a Nomex flight glove, there's the shooting strip for pistols? When it comes like here, and it's white, and it stands out really well against the drab green of the glove. And when they rolled up the glove, that white is still actually visible in the roll, which is a crazy amount of detail. The great thing about Molly gear, it's the same for the interceptors on the early war tank crew, is that, I know I've covered this before, but I want to talk about it briefly here. The reason why I like these guys so much is that you can tailor make the setup to whatever you want. They're intended to be used as an AFV crew, but since they've got the MICH infantry helmets, you can have them just as dismounted infantry taking a break. And you can scrape away the pistol mags or the 2 grenade pouches on the figures if you want, and replace them with live resin M16, M4 pouches with the pull tabs or the standard magazine pouches, and then you can drape an M4 down the chest or on the back with a simple sling that you can make out of foil or whatever. And you can also do things like put a Camelback hydration system on the center line back of the figures, because that Molly gear on the back is all exposed and it's all bare. So really you can do whatever you want with these figures. So that's all I'm going to talk about for these two guys. Thanks very much for watching. If you're looking for these figures and many more, be sure to check us out at highcaliberminiatures.com. I'll put the link in the description below. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter for daily updates on stock and what myself and Alan are working on. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.